The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Samuel and I want to make self-growth normal. If you want to make self-growth normal, because I don't want to do it alone, then make sure to smash that like button. So before I review this book, I do want to say why I'm reviewing it, because I've never reviewed a book for this reason and I never will again. Years before this video, I did check this book out. I was in an ER room waiting for an open spot in a psych hospital called Kids Peace in Pennsylvania. I was 17, struggling with severe suicidal thoughts and depression. I read the whole book in a few hours and I was very unhappy with the results. I thought it sucked. I thought it was just a bunch of spiritual wumbo mumbo jumbo woo woo fairy crystal magic chakra energy crystal. You get my point. I wasn't a fan, but I was going through some stuff then. And if you read books like this, chances are you may know how much change a person, maybe yourself, is capable of in a span of 7 years. So that's my background with this book. People have mentioned it to me since and asked my thoughts on it, but come to think of it, they may be far too outdated for me to ignore, given this book's popularity level. Why is this book so popular? What am I missing? Am I just not enlightened enough or something? That can't be it. Maybe I was seeing the hole but not the donut. Maybe I was seeing the donut but not the hole. Whatever it was, I had to not have been, is that the correct grammar? Had to not have been seeing the entirety of the donut. So let's talk about this book. I know there are people watching this like, Sam, just shut up and get to the point, okay? Let's talk about what I missed. Do I still feel that way? If so, or if not, why? More importantly, what are the four agreements? What did I learn from them? What could you learn from them? I'm going to share my thoughts on each one, a standout quote or two from the book, who I recommend this book to, and what books to maybe check out next. Before the first agreement, there's this chapter called Domestication and the Dream of the Planet. During the opening credits, fun observation I made, if you will. 7 years ago, my energy level was just way lower than it is now. I mean, I needed help, like real help. And everyone, everyone's always gonna need help, but I really needed help then, and I'm much more able to help now, willing and able to manage myself. In the book, I learned about energy levels. It advises you to pay attention to the energy level of the audience you're targeting with your product. I don't think this book is for people at the energy level where I was. Who knows? Maybe it is. But my energy level back then was in much denial of this being true. I'm not sure if this makes sense. My review of the book about energy levels sums it up a lot better. It's by a guy named Frederick Dodson, and it's called, surprise, Levels of Energy. Don Miguel Ruiz begins by summarizing the concept of what he calls domestication. There are no scientific studies. A lot of this just kind of sounds like observations he made. Like, we agree, we do this, we do what we're told. A little vague, but it makes sense. Whether or not that is relevant or true or the case, I guess that's up to the reader. I mean, I don't disagree, but if I had just 10 cents, just 10, not $1, but just 10 cents, maybe even 1 cent for every time this guy used the word we in this book, there would be no more college debt crisis. So what is the first agreement? The first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. Sounds like my kind of agreement. The whole chapter is about the power of what you say and think. I once heard someone say that the world is made of language. I think information is a better word, unless you want to consider them the same thing. But your own use of words can kill or save millions of lives, directly and indirectly. Words, they shape how you see and treat yourself. And how often do you see and treat yourself differently from others? It's a question I'm sure maybe not everyone knows the answer to. How he says what he says, it can be a little bit vague from time to time. The examples that he lists are not very tangible. It's kind of, not stories, but hypotheticals, like the one about getting all dressed up and making yourself look nice for an hour before going out, and your friend says you're ugly. What kind of friend would do that? And you never do it again. And it's because of just a few words. And that's just an example. Again, it's just maybe like a hypothetical in this chapter that I could get behind because of how specific it is. That's really an example of like the most specific he gets of how the word can be poisonous or black magic, as Don Miguel Ruiz puts it. And that's me looking at this as like a book reviewer, as a student, if you will. I love the actual agreements and I agree with them. And I'm going to try to be impeccable with that word. And I agree with them. And I'm going to do my best to be impeccable with that word. The second agreement is very, very overlooked. Don't take anything personally. My biggest takeaway from this chapter is that as you begin to make this agreement a habit, you won't need to place your trust in what others do or say. You will only need yourself to trust to make responsible choices. I just never really considered that like carelessness on the part of others, or what they thought or said about me, had to do with like trusting them. Interesting. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. As my old English teacher would say, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. What's the difference between assume and presume? Assume is to suppose without proof. Presume is to suppose on the basis of probability. So to presume is to suppose based on probability, while to assume is to suppose based on no evidence. I had to look this up because I never really remembered her reasoning, which was also interesting. We assume that everyone sees life the way we do. We assume the way others think is the way we think, feel the way we feel, judge the way we judge, and abuse the way we abuse. This is the biggest assumption that we as humans make, and this is why we have a fear of being ourselves around others, because we think everyone else will judge us, victimize us, abuse us, and blame us as we do ourselves. Once again, the whole we thing, but once again, I can't really disagree, but once again, I know these sound like observations, but what do I know? The fourth agreement is, I wouldn't say it's my favorite because I really love the first two, but this one really brings the first three together and kind of wraps them up in this package. Always do your best is the fourth agreement. And it only makes sense. When you do your best, which by the way is highlighted by Tim Grover in Relentless as very, very, very different from trying your best, you cannot really blame yourself when things do not work out, although you can certainly learn from it. Are we as free as we think we are? Freedom in my eyes is eternal. It's a choice. We're pretty much born free. Like kids, they're free. They don't worry about the past. They're not scared about the future. They're just kind of living life, you know? Isn't that how you were when you were a kid? The difference between most kids and most adults is domestication. I would call it social conditioning because whether it's intentional or not, conspiracy theorists have argued that it is. It's almost like, at least in America, there's like a set of beliefs or actions we have to follow. Or there's something wrong with the choices that we've made. Go to school, get a job, go to college, get married, have kids, maybe a nice promotion. Don't be too stingy with your money. Money's not that important, Billy. You have to treat yourself, Sarah. Never take too big of a risk. Be seen and not heard, Greg. Have you been told these things? If not, have you at least been suggested that they're best practices for an ideal life? By the way, just about none of them are evolutionary. When we came upon this earth, a lot of these did not exist. Students, school, college, marriage, having kids, okay, that was always here. But promotions, again, occupation, the work week, money and its importance, judging each other for actions that we're judging ourselves for not taking. Maybe that has a little bit of evolutionary roots to it. But if this is as common a problem as the author makes it out to be, we have a problem. I've heard story after story of people judging themselves and others for not doing any of the things I just listed and more. But I've told people with pride that I didn't go to college and I love saving money. And I will get married and I'm not sure if I want to have kids, maybe, still thinking about it. And I'm very proud of this all. And I'm being impeccable with my word here. Maybe that's why I couldn't count a single instance when someone was like, "You're an idiot. Why wouldn't you go to college?" Maybe it's just the notion that you get what you focus on. I hope that you're watching this and somehow you resonate with it or you can relate to it. But so much of this book focuses on working your way around the domestication and the damage it's done to what you believe about yourself and others. The workaround is what the author addresses as the Toltec path to freedom. I had never heard of Toltec before. I think it's like a Mexican Aztec thing. But I looked it up and they believe in two gods, which I don't think this guy mentioned at all. I hope I'm pronouncing these right. Quetzalcoatl, the plumed serpent god, and Tezcatlipoca, the smoked mirror. And I've never reviewed a book known for its teachings in Toltec philosophy, so it was refreshing to stumble upon this one. But black magic, the dream of hell, or the dream of the planet, domestication, going into the denial systems, knowing again what I know about those energy levels, those are not things that people throw around every day when they're just in school or at work. On one level, these terms just sound like the spiritual mumbo jumbo wumbo that I was talking about earlier, but on another level, it could just be something beyond my understanding, and that may be why the author chose to explain them, which I'm very glad he did. Quotes. There was only one quote in this one that really stood out. "It is not the stars that make the light, but rather the light that makes the stars." Direction 1. I recommend this book for anyone who is open-minded to spiritual development and is willing to accept, maybe not entirely dismiss, but accept the possibility of just things that maybe they don't entirely understand, but they are kind of confused and they want a little bit more fulfillment out of their lives. And anyone who's really looking to maybe get a little bit into Toltec philosophy, direction 2. If you like this book, book. The first book that comes to mind is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and the second book is definitely Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. There's a link in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and all the other books that I mentioned in this video if you want to check those out too. If you guys buy anything through the links in the description, then I get commission, which helps me build this channel and keep making these videos. If there are any other books that you guys want me to check out and review, please let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you checked out this book and you liked it. But hey, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, because I don't get why people watch this far into my videos and they don't subscribe. But if you have subscribed and you want to turn it up just a notch and turn on that notification bell to get a notification whenever I drop new videos, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. You can find me everywhere, and I will see you then.